Subscribe before the truth disappears, because once you hear what happened in those woods, you'll never walk alone again. It began with a phone call that shattered the silence of a quiet Sunday morning. At exactly 6:47 a.m., a jogger named Mark Leland dialed 911 from the edge of Ravenwood State Park, his voice trembling as he reported a car left abandoned by the trailhead. The doors were unlocked, the engine cold, the keys still in the ignition. Inside the vehicle sat a single backpack, a half-empty bottle of water, and a phone wedged between the seats, its screen frozen on a missed call from Mom. The car belonged to Emma Hargrove, a 29-year-old freelance photographer who had driven out to Ravenwood the night before. She'd texted her roommate around 9:12 p.m., saying she wanted to capture the mist in the woods before dawn. That was the last message she ever sent. When Detective Laura Hendricks arrived on the scene, she noticed something odd. The driver's seat was adjusted far back, too far for Emma's short frame, and the camera tripod, found near the passenger door, had a cracked leg. It looked like it had been dropped or kicked. Hendricks followed the faint trail that led from the car into the trees. A dirt path wound deeper through the forest, framed by fog and the low hum of distant cicadas. About 50 yards in, she found a single hiking boot, half buried in leaves. A few steps further, a small silver necklace tangled around a twig. The pendant bore an engraving, E.H. She crouched, examining the ground. Footprints, 2 sets, one smaller, one larger. They overlapped, weaving erratically toward the heart of the forest. Then, abruptly, they stopped. No sign of struggle, no blood, just silence. By noon, search teams had filled the woods. Dogs, drones, volunteers. The scent dogs caught a trail briefly, following it along the creek's edge before losing it completely near a patch of muddy reeds. The water there was unusually still, as though hiding something beneath. Divers were brought in. They found nothing. Not yet. Meanwhile, Hendricks began piecing together Emma's last 24 hours. Her roommate, Sophie Durant, said Emma had been increasingly distant lately, restless. She kept saying someone was following her, Sophie told detectives, but she never said who. When asked if Emma had any enemies, Sophie hesitated. Not enemies, but there was her ex, Ryan Mallory, 31, construction worker, arrested 2 years prior for assault. Charges dropped after Emma refused to testify. Their breakup had been messy. Friends described Ryan as obsessive, unpredictable. He'd shown up at Emma's apartment 2 nights before she vanished. Witnesses heard shouting. Detective Hendricks and her partner, Neil Pearson, drove out to question him. Ryan's house sat on the outskirts of town, a rundown trailer with a sagging porch and overgrown yard. He opened the door shirtless, eyes red-shot, a beer can in one hand. When told Emma was missing, his face drained of color. "You think I had something to do with that? I loved her." Hendricks studied him quietly. His hands were shaking. "Where were you last night, Ryan?" "Home, alone, watching TV. You can check." But when they did, his phone's GPS showed movement out near Ravenwood between 9:30 and 10:10 p.m. He claimed his phone was stolen. "I lost it a few days ago, I swear." The next morning, detectives received a strange tip. A local hunter, Eddie Klein, had found something in the woods, about 2 miles north of the main search area. When Hendricks arrived, he was standing by a tree line, visibly shaken. "I was setting up my deer cam, and I found this." It was a camera, Emma's DSLR, caked in mud, but intact. The memory card was still inside. They rushed it to the lab. When the files were recovered, the last few photos sent a chill through the entire department. Emma had been taking pictures near the creek, fog rolling in, moonlight flickering through the trees. In one shot, she appeared to have turned the camera on herself, perhaps by accident, her face half lit, eyes wide. In the background, behind her shoulder, a figure. Tall, male, wearing dark clothes, standing just beyond the mist. The lab enhanced the image, revealing more detail. The man appeared to be holding something, possibly a flashlight or camera of his own. His face was obscured, but the shape of his jacket stood out. A tan Carhartt, identical to the one Ryan Mallory was known to wear. A warrant was issued. Police searched Ryan's trailer that evening. Inside, they found a pair of boots caked in dried mud, a knife with traces of algae, and a set of wet clothes stuffed behind the washer. Ryan denied everything. "I didn't go near those woods. Someone's trying to set me up." But one thing he couldn't explain was the silver pendant found in his dresser drawer, the one engraved with E.H. When shown the evidence, Ryan went pale. "That wasn't hers," he said quietly. "She gave that to me months ago. Told me to keep it. Said it was a reminder of what I'd done." "What did you do, Ryan?" Hendricks pressed. He looked away. "Something I'll never forgive myself for." That night, a storm rolled in, heavy rain pounding the roofs of Ravenwood's cabins and washing away the last traces of the search grid. By dawn, the river had risen nearly 2 feet, turning the creeks into roaring channels. As rescue teams regrouped, Hendricks received an unexpected message. An email, no sender, no subject line, with a single attachment, a video. It was grainy, shot in near darkness. The angle suggested it came from a motion-activated trail cam. The timestamp read 9:46 p.m., the night Emma disappeared. The video showed the creek, the fog, then movement. Emma, identifiable by her jacket and camera strap, stepping cautiously into the frame, glancing over her shoulder as though someone was following her. She looked terrified. She whispered something inaudible and then froze. A second figure emerged from the trees behind her. Not Ryan. Someone taller, wearing a hood. The video cut out just as Emma turned, her mouth opening in a silent scream. Detective Hendricks stared at the screen in disbelief. The email's metadata traced back to an encrypted address, routed through multiple proxies. Whoever sent it knew what they were doing. "Someone wanted us to see this," Pearson muttered. "Or someone's playing games," Hendricks replied. But as the rain eased and the mist lifted over Ravenwood, a new search area was mapped right where the video ended. And before the day was over, a deputy found something half buried in the mud along the creek's bend. A second phone. Smashed, waterlogged, but still faintly blinking. When they pulled it from the muck, the lock screen lit up for just a moment, revealing Emma's face in a reflection. And beneath it, a single notification. One new voicemail. They pulled the phone from the evidence bag like it was a living thing, fragile, corrupted, but whispering secrets through the static. The lab techs managed to power it for barely 5 minutes before it died for good. But that was enough. Detective Laura Hendricks stood over the console as the audio file loaded. The room was silent except for the hum of the equipment. The timestamp read 9:48 p.m., same night Emma vanished. The file was only 41 seconds long. A trembling voice filled the room, Emma's. "If anyone finds this, I'm not alone out here. I saw static. He said it was an accident, but I think he's lying. Please." Heavy breathing, distant snapping of twigs. "Someone's coming. I have to..." Scream, then silence. The clip ended abruptly. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Detective Pearson whispered, "She said he, not they." Hendricks nodded slowly. She knew him. The next 48 hours tore through the department like a storm. Search teams swept the woods again. Drones mapped every hollow and ravine. But every direction led to the same dead end, the river. That's when the forensic team came back with something new. The mud on Ryan Nallery's boots matched the mineral composition from the exact section of creek where the phone was found. Ryan's lawyer claimed coincidence. He hikes there all the time, he said. But Hendricks wasn't convinced. The boots had watermarks that matched the night of the storm, fresh, not old. They brought Ryan back in for another interrogation. He looked rough this time, unshaven, exhausted, eyes red like he hadn't slept. "I told you I didn't hurt her," he insisted, voice cracking. "Emma was scared of someone, but it wasn't me." "Then who?" Hendricks asked. Ryan hesitated. His gaze drifted toward the one-way mirror, then back. "You won't believe me. Try us." He exhaled shakily. "There was this guy, some client. She met him online. He paid her to take photos of his property. Said he was a real estate investor or something. She told me he creeped her out. Kept texting her after the job, asking when she'd come back." Hendricks leaned forward. "Do you know his name?" Ryan nodded. "Yeah, Calder. Something Calder." Detectives ran the name through every database they had. 2 hits came back. Calder Ames, 43, a retired land surveyor, owned several acres bordering the northern edge of Ravenwood State Park. No criminal record, but neighbors had filed multiple noise complaints over the years. When officers visited his property, the place felt wrong the second they stepped out of the car. A metal gate hung crooked, rust streaking down the hinges. Beyond it, an old farmhouse sat surrounded by trees, blinds drawn tight even at midday. A no trespassing sign nailed to a fence post looked freshly painted. Hendricks and Pearson knocked. No answer. They circled back toward the shed behind the house, and that's when Pearson stopped. "Laura, look." Half buried in the mud near the shed was a camera lens, identical to the one missing from Emma's DSLR. The warrant came through by evening. They searched every inch of Calder's property. Inside the shed, they found a workspace lined with tripods, halogen lights, and camera rigs. He wasn't a real estate photographer, he was something else. Folders filled with printed photos lay scattered across a workbench. Most were of landscapes, trails, old cabins, all around Ravenwood. But tucked in the back was a smaller set. Portraits. Of women. Some candid, some clearly unaware they were being photographed. And one, unmistakably Emma, standing at the creek with her camera, completely alone. They brought Calder in. He was calm, polite, eerily collected. A wiry, gray-haired man with eyes that never quite met yours. "I help people capture the natural beauty of the park. She wanted to see where the fog settles. I just showed her." "Why do you have hidden photos of her?" He smiled faintly. "Because she was beautiful." "And where is she now?" His gaze hardened. "You think I hurt her. I didn't. She left on her own." But the evidence was mounting. The camera lens, the photo prints, even tire tracks near his property that matched his pickup. Still, without a body, there was no charge. So they let him go. That night, Hendricks sat alone at her desk, replaying the voicemail for the 10th time. Emma's voice, terrified, trembling, seemed to echo inside her skull. There was something about that first line. He said it was an accident. She pulled the case file and cross-referenced everything. The night before Emma disappeared, there had been another incident. A car crash near the park entrance, a hit-and-run. The victim survived but never saw the driver. Emma's name appeared in the report, as the witness who called it in. Hendricks stared at the page. He said it was an accident. She called Pearson immediately.
"We've been looking at this wrong," she said. "What if Emma wasn't running from a stalker, but from someone she thought she had exposed?" The next morning, Hendricks drove back to Calder's property unannounced. The gate was open this time. His truck was gone. She stepped inside the shed again, sunlight filtering through the cracks. That's when she noticed it. A hidden panel in the floor, half covered by a tarp. Beneath it, a cellar door. The air grew cold as she descended. The smell hit first, damp earth and oil. Shelves lined the walls filled with more boxes of photos labeled by date and initials. And in the corner, under a blue tarp, something metallic glinted in the light. She pulled it back. A camera. Emma's camera. Next to it, a plastic container filled with muddy water, and inside, a piece of torn fabric. Dark, soaked. Her phone buzzed. Pearson again. "Laura, you need to see this," he said. "We found new footage." He played it on the monitor when she arrived back at the station. Recovered from another trail cam, this one 2 miles north of Calder's land. The footage showed Calder himself. He was dragging something through the woods, heavy, wrapped in a tarp. He stopped at the edge of the creek, looked straight at the camera as if he knew it was there, and smiled. Then he turned and rolled the bundle into the water. The timestamp? 10:12 p.m., just minutes after Emma's voicemail ended. The arrest was immediate. Calder offered no resistance. He just kept repeating the same phrase as they cuffed him. She wanted the perfect shot. She walked too far. When they drained the creek the next morning, they found the tarp wedged beneath a fallen log. Inside were torn clothes, a shattered camera tripod, but no body. The current had carried it further downstream, or someone had moved it. Because 2 hours later, as Hendricks reviewed the recovered evidence, her phone lit up with another anonymous email. Same encryption, same sender, no message this time, just a photo. It showed a woman standing at the edge of a forest clearing, her back turned to the camera. She was wearing Emma's jacket. The timestamp? Yesterday, 5:34 p.m.
Detective Laura Hendricks stared at the photo until her eyes burned. The timestamp didn't make sense. Yesterday, 5:34 p.m. That was after they'd already arrested Calder, after the creek had been drained. Emma Hargrove was supposed to be dead, but the woman in that image, same jacket, same hair, same stance, was unmistakably her. Hendricks enlarged the photo, scanning every pixel. The trees in the background weren't from Ravenwood. They were too thin, too bare. The terrain was different, flatter, lighter soil. Maybe an open field on the park's outskirts, maybe not even the same county. She turned to her partner. "Pearson, I want every traffic camera, every trail cam, every gas station feed within 20 miles of that timestamp. Find out where this was taken." Pearson hesitated. "You think she's alive?" Hendricks didn't answer, because she didn't know what to think. By dawn, a tech analyst traced the metadata buried in the image file, coordinates just outside the park perimeter, near an abandoned ranger outpost closed since 2017. The property once belonged to the Forestry Service, before it was bought by none other than Calder Ames. A search team was dispatched immediately. They found the ranger outpost half collapsed under creeping ivy and rot. The front door hung open, creaking in the wind. Inside, dust coated the floor like frost. The air smelled of old wood and mildew. And on the far wall, someone had taped dozens of printed photos. Not landscapes this time. Faces. Women's faces, each one marked with a red circle. And the center was Emma's photo, taken from her mission camera. A deputy called out from outside the cabin. "Detective, you'll want to see this." Behind the outpost, near a dried-up well, they'd found tire tracks, fresh ones, and a patch of disturbed earth. The soil looked recently dug, then recovered. The ground team began excavating. The deeper they went, the stronger the smell. Sharp, metallic, unmistakable. At 2 feet down, a glint of plastic. At 3 feet, the corner of a tarp. When they pulled it open, the team fell silent. Inside was a skeleton, mostly intact. Clothing fibers clung to the bones, the same dark jeans, hiking boots, and jacket Emma had been wearing the night she disappeared. At the morgue, the coroner confirmed Emma Hargrove was dead. Decomposition suggested she'd been buried for over a week, which made the photo from yesterday impossible, unless it wasn't real, or wasn't recent. Hendricks reviewed the anonymous emails again. The sender knew every turn of the investigation, where to send evidence, when to intervene. It was like someone was watching them the entire time. But there was one thing she hadn't checked: the trail cam serial number from the first video. She called the manufacturer. They traced it to a store in Henderson County, purchased under a fake name, paid in cash. Security footage from that store showed a man at the counter wearing a tan Carhartt jacket. Ryan Mallory, the ex-boyfriend, the one who swore he was innocent. When Hendricks pulled his records again, something stood out. His cell phone hadn't just pinged near the creek that night. It had also been active 2 days later, near Calder's property. He'd lied. They brought Ryan back in. This time, no lawyer, no excuses. He sat stiffly in the interrogation chair, eyes darting between the two detectives. "I told you everything I know." "You didn't," Hendricks replied coldly. "We found her body. You were there. And you kept sending us messages, the photos, the videos. You wanted us to look at Calder. Why?" His jaw tightened. "Because he did it." "Then why were you at his property 2 days later?" He slammed his hand against the table. "Because I was trying to find her. You people weren't moving fast enough." Hendricks leaned forward. "Ryan, the photo you sent, the one from yesterday, how did you get it?" He froze. "What photo?" "The one that made it look like she was still alive." I didn't send that." For a moment, the room fell still. Hendricks and Pearson exchanged a glance. If Ryan hadn't sent the last message, someone else had access to the same network. Someone with deep knowledge of both men. Then the door opened. A uniformed officer stepped in, holding a printout. "Detective, you'll want to see this." It was a forensic analysis of the trail cam footage. There, faint in the corner reflection of the creek, another figure. Someone filming from a distance. A woman. And when the lab enhanced the face, Hendricks felt her stomach drop. It wasn't Emma. It was Sophie Durant, Emma's roommate. Within hours, Hendricks had Sophie brought in for questioning. She looked startled but composed, the way someone does when they've rehearsed the conversation 100 times in their head. "I already told you everything," she said, clutching her coffee cup. "Maybe not," Hendricks said softly. "We found footage of you at Ravenwood, the night Emma disappeared." Sophie's eyes flickered, just briefly. "I was worried about her. She told me she was meeting someone. I followed her to make sure she was okay." "Did she know you were there?" Sophie hesitated. "No. I stayed back. I didn't want to spook her." "Then how did you get her camera, the one we found at Calder's?" Sophie's grip tightened around the cup. I found it later. I just didn't think you'd believe me." But there was something else Hendricks noticed. A faint scar on her wrist, freshly healed. She remembered the initial report. Emma had once confided in a friend about a fight at home, one that left scratches and broken glass. "Emma was planning to move out, wasn't she?" Hendricks asked quietly. "She wanted space, that's all." "Space from you?" Silence. Then Sophie whispered. "She didn't understand. I was the only one who cared. She thought everyone was out to get her, Calder, Ryan, but I was trying to protect her. She wasn't safe out there." Hendricks leaned in. "So you followed her into the woods. What happened, Sophie?" Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "She ran. I tried to stop her. She slipped near the creek. I didn't mean for her to fall." Pearson's jaw clenched. "And you buried her?" "I didn't know what else to do," she cried. "Then Calder showed up.
He saw everything, said he could help, said he could make it look like she just vanished. He liked the attention, said it'd make people remember her.
You worked together?
Sophie nodded slowly, trembling. At first, but then he kept the photos. He said he owned her now. The confession broke the case open and shattered the narrative. Calder had covered the accident to protect himself, turning it into a spectacle. Sophie, driven by guilt and obsession, tried to control the story by feeding the investigation clues, keeping Emma's name alive, keeping herself close to her. The last photo she'd sent, the one time stamped yesterday, was from weeks before the disappearance. She doctored the date to make it look recent. Her voice cracked as she said, "I just didn't want her to be forgotten." When the trial came, the story gripped the entire country. Headlines called it the Ravenwood obsession case. Sophie Durant was charged with involuntary manslaughter and obstruction of justice. Calder Ames faced charges for evidence tampering and voyeurism. Ryan Mallory was cleared of wrongdoing, but disappeared from town shortly after, leaving only a short statement. Emma deserved better than all of us. Detective Hendricks stood by the river weeks later, watching the water move lazily beneath the bridge. The forest had gone quiet again, like it was waiting to forget. She looked down at the rippling surface and thought of Emma, the girl who walked into the woods with her camera, searching for beauty, and found something far darker. The current shifted, sunlight flickering through the branches. For just a second, she thought she saw a reflection, a face, half smiling, vanishing with a ripple. She blinked. Just water, just light. They say every case leaves a mark, something you can't scrub from memory. For Hendricks, it was the last line of Emma's voicemail. "Please, if anyone finds this." She did. If you thought this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Subscribe before the truth disappears.